days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days. Nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I locked my keys in the car. Well, that's the third time this week so far. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days. Nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those days. Well, my wife called me up in tears and said she just rolled the car and she thinks it's dead. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days. Nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I told my wife I'm feeling stressed. She said, we got a letter from the IRS. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days. Nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. It's just one of those.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is hot out there. Let me tell you, I'm sweating. It is crazy. But I'll tell you what, just recently I discovered a new product that's fantastic that not a lot of people know about. It is Primal Wipes. Let me tell you what, Primal Wipes are fantastic. I was mowing the other day. My wife was like, hey, let's go to the in-laws for dinner. I didn't have time for a shower. I took Primal Wipes, wiped down. They are filled with cedar oils and just fantastic things. I felt refreshed. I felt great. And I smelled great. I smelled like a cedar tree. Let me tell you, I just took descented. If you're a hunter, it's great with descenting. And let me tell you, you know what's great about them? You can find them right now on Amazon. I got the sample pack. I loved it. I tried the white ones. I haven't opened the black one yet. These are fantastic. If you get a chance, go to Amazon and check out Primal Wipes today. Primal Wipes. They were designed by Scott Dinger, an outdoorsman, falconer, dog trainer, hunter, duck hunter, big game hunter. He's outside all the time, and he developed this for hunters like us. So check them out today. Thank you. And support them. They're an American company. Support them. Check them out. Hey everybody, what's going on? So let me play a little bit of the intro. I'm still waiting on Dr. Wayne. How's everyone doing? I'm just going to just talk for a little bit. Yeah, Primal Wipes. You guys have to check that out. That's going to be in my bag this year. Man, everyone knows whenever you're pushing that boat and your waders get all that swamp mud on you, man, you smell bad. And I'm looking forward to using those so I don't smell like the swamp creature, let me tell you. Let me see if I can, let's see here. No, I can't see what everyone's saying right now, but, yeah, we're just going to wait a little bit for Dr. Wayne. But I'm very excited about this episode, and, yeah. So while I'm waiting, why don't you all go get your popcorn, your drinks, all that good stuff. I'm going to do either the montage of me making a call or the music intro real quick. And then if you hear me jump back in, know that's me, okay? So I'll be right back. Speaking of, while I'm doing that, check out Primal Wipes. And again, I'm not sponsored by them. It's just an American-made company. I met the maker of the wipes. I love what he's doing. Check him out. Hey everybody, how's it going? So, Dr. Wayne has not called me yet. I'm just waiting on him. I hold on a second. All right, I'll be right back. Be right back.
I wake up in the morning, it's 5:03. I'm late for work again, the boss is mad at me. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I locked my keys in the car. Well, that's the third time this week so far. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those days. Well, my wife called me up in tears and said she just rolled the car and she thinks it's dead. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Well, I told my wife I'm feeling stressed. She said, we got a letter from the IRS. But it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. It's just one of those days, nothing goes your way. It's just one of those days. Just one of those days. The sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. Just one of those days, the sun don't seem to shine, and you wish you could rewind and just go back to yesterday. It's just one of those. It's just one of those.
Hey everybody, we are ready to go. Here we go with the intro music. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. As a call maker, I enjoy talking shop with other duck call makers. On this podcast, it's all about duck calls and duck hunting. From the marsh to the duck call shop, we're going to find the story behind the duck calls and the people that make them. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. Hey everybody, everyone tuning in to the live stream, everyone listening at home on the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in to Rilo's Quack Chat, a podcast all about duck hunting, duck calls, and the story behind the duck calls, and the story behind duck hunting. This is Rilo's Quack Chat, and we're just going to jump right into it. In this episode today, I'm very honored to have the author of books such as The Golden Age of Waterfowling, Arkansas Duck Hunting, Pointer Setters and Field Trials, Waterfowling Vignettes, among others. He is also a very seasoned waterfowler and waterfowling historian, and the host of one of my personal favorite podcasts, Historic Duck Hunting Stories, The Golden Age of Waterfowling. I would like to introduce to you my guest on the podcast today, Dr. Wayne
Riley, you there?
Capooth. Yes, sir.
I can't hear you. I've lost you on this end.
Okay. You want to try to call me back? Here, we'll have him call back. We're having some difficulties. It happens sometimes. So he'll call right back here in a second. We'll get him piped in. How about I try to call him?
Your call has been forwarded to...
Nope. Just hang with me, everybody. This stuff happens all the time. So, there we go. Hello?
Hey, sorry.
Riley, it dropped out on my end for some reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll get through this. Well, Dr. Wayne, thank you so much for calling into the podcast tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome, Riley. I'm glad to do this.
What is the what's it like down there in Memphis?
Oh, it's been hot. We're bumping 98, 9700, and it's humid. You know, the South is just humid as all get out, so it's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when do you usually have your barbecue deals that happen down there? You have a barbecue festival down Memphis, don't you?
Well, Riley, we live right on the river. Mississippi River. I always wanted to live here. We moved down in a condo in 2011. We're on the 12th floor looking straight north, and I mean, we sat right down, slapped down on the Mississippi River, and I can look down the Mississippi River northward for about 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And right at our doorstep is Sun Lee Park, which is about 80 to 100 acre park on the river, overlooks the river, and that's where they have the barbecue contest. So we're just a couple hundred yards from it.
Oh wow. Oh wow. And when does that happen usually?
It usually happens the whole month of May. It's called Memphis in May.
Oh, okay. Cool. Very cool. Well, Dr. Wayne, I have been listening to your podcast for a couple years now. I'm a huge fan of everything you do. How's the sound on your end, real quick, before we keep going?
No, it's good. We're great right now.
Okay. Can everyone in the live stream hear us? I can hear them pretty okay. Dr. Wayne, now, you were an emergency room doctor, weren't you?
For 30 years, and then after that, I got too old for it. The 12 hours and night shift got to me, and then so I went to the University of Memphis, became the medical director of their clinic there on the campus for 12 years, and then retired in 2014.
Wow. Wow, that is awesome. That is great. So, Dr. Wayne, how old were you when you got into duck hunting, into waterfowl hunting?
Well, Riley, I was, like most Southern boys, I started at 10 years old. Daddy was a hunter and fisherman, lived in the country, was an old hog and cattle trader. And so he hunted and fishing a lot. Of course, he got me started. I started out like I said, most Southern boys, squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, coon hunting. And then we got bird dogs and gravitated into quail hunting, probably around 14.
Yeah. And
we were out, I was hunting with my older friend who got me started quail hunting up where Daddy was raised in Raymer, Tennessee. And we was quail hunting, and we were round in a bean field, and we rounded a little bend in the bean field. And as we rounded along the tree line, we came to a little open water. Oh, it wasn't more than an acre of water. And we flushed 2 mallards. It was a beautiful, bright day, one, and they were right on top of us as we rounded the corner into the field. along the tree line and ran them up. And the sun was just shining on that green head, and I said, man, that is beautiful. So then I started duck hunting up in that area on Tuscumbia River, which is about 70 miles east of Memphis. And it was more of a roost type hunt. So that's how it got me started. And then gravitated from there over into, I was in Tennessee, so gravitated over into Arkansas hunting, at least by age 16 or so. And been duck hunting now for over 60 years.
Oh my goodness. Wow. What was your first duck call?
I think it was a Jensen as best I can remember.
Oh, that's great. I love Jensen's.
You know, I didn't duck call for a number. I always had a good friend that hunted a lot with me. He was the duck call, and I really didn't get into duck calling probably until, gosh, I was 30 years old. And I got to start just carrying one around in my car. Figured I needed to learn how to call, so started carrying one around in my car in Memphis, going to work back and forth or whatever in the car. I'd keep the windows up and just blow the duck call. I'd come up, blowing at people, what the heck are you doing, boy? But anyway, that's how I got really into duck calling.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. The have real quick before we go on with some of the questions I have for you, Dr. Wayne. Have you ever been to the Reelfoot Festival in Sandburg, Tennessee?
I have. I was in there probably the last time, and a long time ago. Probably was, I would say, 15 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. There's nothing like it when you get those guys running those old Reelfoot calls all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has the sport of duck hunting changed since you first got into duck hunting? I mean, what was it like when you started?
Probably when I jumped over in Arkansas in the season of 1955 or 56. So I'd only been 12 years old or so, but I had a good friend that had a place over there at Stuttgart. In 1955 or 56, it doesn't matter because it was back-to-back Grand Passages.
Uh-huh.
And I guess everybody knows what a Grand Passage is. You think I need to explain it?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
A Grand Passage is when up north in Canada and the northern tier of states has a severe cold front come through, usually about the end of October, maybe the 1st of November, and it just drives all the ducks straight south across the border, even missing a lot of the upper tier states of the United States. And so that either the season, both years, 1955 and the season 1956, there was back-to-back Grand Passages. So one of those years, my first time to hunt at Stuttgart, and it was just ungodly. But how has it changed? I think there's really basically, I don't think much has changed between how you set your decoys out and, what kind of shells you shoot and all of that stuff. I think that, of course, all of that stuff's improved, but I think really the biggest change to me has just been the weather over the years. There's no doubt that the flyways are changing and moving northward as we go along. We're sort of in an interglacial period, and it's to be expected that the warming is that we're going through. And up in Canada now, part of the tundra is thawing out, and its vegetation is growing up. So the mallards and pintails and things like that are moving up into the tundra where it's thawed out. And I tend to think the ducks are not coming south, and ducks are not going to come south until they have to due to weather, what food, and all that stuff. So they're tending to stay further north. The reason I say that, I was a member of a club down in Wild Wings in Mississippi, which was about 90 miles south of Memphis. from 83 to 98, and it was the most ungodliest hunting I've ever had in my life. It topped Arkansas. But anyway, after I left there in 98, I went back to Arkansas. But, you know, I talked to my friends back in Mississippi, and they just tell me, man, the flyway, we don't get hardly any ducks anymore down in that area. And it's tending to be a little bit even in the southern part of Arkansas. It's just, it's changing with the weather. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the corn, just take, for example, corn. You know, Iowa, when I was a kid, that's about the northern limits of it. Now corn is growing into the southern part of Saskatchewan and Alberta. So, you know, if they can sit up there in warmer weather and get food, water, or even in North Dakota and South Dakota, get corn and all that stuff, they're not coming south. But,
Yeah.
And then another big change was, the ungodly thing was the robo duck. I call it robo
Yeah.
because that's what it was when it came out in, I think, 1996 out of California. And I was in that club in Mississippi then, and we had the opening weekend. We had one of the members had a guest from California, and he got to tell us at supper one night about this duck, this decoy with spinning wings on it, how great it was, and how it was fantastic. And I just thinking to myself, this guy's crazy. Well, the next year, one of the members had one of those robo ducks, and he was hunting in the field with our 106-acre field. I was in one pen, he and his two boys in the other, sunny day, and they were just shooting. And I couldn't imagine why they were shooting when we were only shooting. I looked up there, and there was that thing spinning. So anyway, I ended up buying one and used it that season, 96, I believe, or 97. And it was the most ungodliest thing I've ever seen in my life. You didn't even have to put out decoys in some instances. It was just incredible. So then they got used to that sucker, but it made the ducks a lot more leery than they normally would have been. But the big change, I think, has been the weather.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It is so. And anymore, if I go onto public ground, if you could fly a drone over public ground, you would almost see the same setup with everyone spread for what you call 4 robo ducks and about 5 to 6 dozen decoys. I mean, it's just standard. It's just got to the point where people won't even hunt without the robo ducks.
Yeah. Well, I got where I wouldn't hunt with one. I tell you. They're good for the juveniles. Mm-hmm. But by the time they get down here in the Southland, a lot of the juveniles are killed, and we're dealing with adult mallards down here. They're pretty dead jump smart.
Oh yeah. They're so smart they don't even come through here in Indiana. All we get is wood ducks.
Wow. Are you in the eastern part?
Southwestern part.
Southwestern, okay.
Yeah. So we rarely see them. If I want to see a mallard, I have to drive 45 minutes. Wow.
Another big change is the game farm raised mallards over on the East Coast, which started in the 1920s. I understand about 90% of the mallards they kill now are game farm raised mallards, got DNA in them. And they're totally different mallards than our wild mallards that we're used to here. But they're spreading eastward, especially up in Michigan a little bit. They can't fly as far, and they tend to, the hen tends to not lay on the eggs as long, and so they get a lot of deaths of their eggs and everything. So, and they're just a different mallard. So that's sort of a problem potentially for the Mississippi flyway.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know that stuff, but that's sort of interesting. I got started in Europe way before 1920 when it first sort of got started on the eastern coast. And all of their mallards over in Europe are game farm raised, got DNA genes in them of that. And they're, like I say, they're a different bird. But go ahead, I get off on tangerines here.
Well, I've been following, I think it was on, I may be wrong, but it was on Ramsey Russell's podcast. They were talking about the situation, I think it's in New Zealand, where the merganser is half mallard. So, and I know some of the black ducks here in the U.S. are part mallard. Like, it's hard to find a full black duck anymore. So, our bloodlines and ducks are kind of getting mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
So I don't know if that will eventually make a certain species of duck extinct. It's kind of like the Labrador Retriever. Everyone was focused on the Labrador Retriever, but no one thought about preserving the St. John water dog, which was used to make the Labrador, and then it just went extinct. So
yeah.
So we may be in a situation where we're not going to see certain species of ducks anymore in the next 10 years or so.
May very well, yeah.
So, Dr. Wayne, I mean, when did your passion for preserving waterfowl history start? When did you decide, I'm going to start researching waterfowling history, I'm going to start writing a book? When did this happen?
Well, I just mentioned I was in a club down in Mississippi, Wild Wings, and I got in it about 1983 and hunted there about 98. But probably in 1986, the guy who started the club was a U.S. former senator from Arkansas, Panista Hodges, who's now deceased for 2 years. Excellent, wonderful guy. But he started the club. And about 1986, he said that he was going to get a Prairie Wings, which were written by Edward Queeny, and it was put out in 1938. And Queeny was head of Monsanto Chemical Company, and he had a big club called Wingmead over in Arkansas, famous club. And he said he could get two of them, and he wanted to know if I wanted one. I said, yeah. So he got it to me, and I started looking at that thing, and I said, nobody's ever written a history of duck hunting in the Mid-South, which is Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, and the Boot Hill of Missouri. Nash Buckingham, I don't know if anybody knows about him, but Nash Buckingham was a Memphian, and he was born in 1880 and died in 72, but he was a remarkable duck hunter, conservationist, and writers, got some really famous old books and stuff. And he was just an outstanding hunter. But he wrote a little history, but his was more storytelling about, what the guides said, the black paddler said, but not really too much real actual history. If that makes sense. So I said, well, after reading the Queenie's book, I said, nobody's ever written a history of the Mid-South. So I'm going to see what I can do. So I just started researching, and I went everywhere. I went to Chicago, went through the American Field Museum and bookstore library up there.
Mm-hmm.
Done a bunch of federal archives, Dallas, Atlanta, just everywhere, researching. Courthouses, libraries, collected a bunch of information, and put it all together and came up with my first book, The Golden Age of Waterfowling, which was Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, and the Boot Hill of Missouri. And I don't care in my history book, I don't go too much past 1950. A few cases I do, such as Wallace Claypool's Wild Acres over around Winters, Arkansas, who got really going in the 1950s. But anyway, so for that, when I'm in all those clubhouses, I was just doing Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, and the Boot Hill. I said, crud, if I'm going all over the United States searching for old records, I might as well just do the whole country. So I started everything I could find in every state,
Yeah.
But now this goes on so I wrote The Golden Age of Waterfowling, and then I wrote, I think I've got 13 books after that. But anyway, I just had the material, so I could But I continued to research, and then, you younger guys probably don't remember what it was like not having a computer. But all of this was typing out at first. And then the computer, I had a Tandy 1200, which was a floppy disk, no hard drive. It was all a little floppy disk-like thing you inserted, and that's how you recorded your data. But anyway, that's just the way I got started. I just couldn't ever stop. And it's just bloomed from there. And I think my favorite book was The Golden Age of Waterfowling, my first one. My last three that I've only got one still in print, the other 2 volumes, the 3-volume set. Along the way, not only collecting texts about our history, I got into photographs, and I just fell in love with photographs of old-time duck hunting. And anyway, my 3 volumes I got out now are called the Historic Duck Hunting Images, and they cover in the 3 volumes all of the states that's got a waterfowling history. Now, obviously, not a lot of states have history like Vermont and New Hampshire and all that stuff. And then I might add, what surprised me the most as I got into it, of course, when you hunt Arkansas, we think, and I'm proud of myself as an Arkansas duck hunter, we think we're the best place in the world in the United States duck hunting. Anyway, when I got to researching everything, I came enthused with California, their history, and how much they protect their history. They're very conservation minded. Just a great place out there, California. Lots of ducks. They have about a 90-day season too. With, I don't know, 8 or 9 duck limit and all that stuff, because they get that limit, the days and the increased limit, because they have a lot of ducks that breed in the state. So so I guess that's counts for being able to have the longer season and more ducks. But anyway, I'm getting off on tangents. So you just cut me off now when I get to going too much.
Well, I have, selfishly, I want to ask you a question. Have you researched the Kankakee Swamp much at all?
Yeah, some, yeah.
I heard that was gigantic. That swamp was just huge, and there were hunting. There were hunting clubs, and I forget who all went up there. And now it's literally just a puddle. It's like, I forget how many acres. I think it's only like 300 acres left, if that.
Well, it started about 80 miles in the Illinois, the Kankakee.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, Illinois, and then went eastward through Indiana for about 120 miles, and it was all swampland and everything. And as you say, just a ton of duck clubs up and down that river, and people coming and hunting in that area. It was called the Chesapeake of the North, because it had so many cabinbacks and of course other bluffs too, mallards, tons of mallards. But it was the place, one of the premier places. And then, like you said, they started draining it and all that stuff, the draining of the wetlands, and it just, I think it's been rejuvenated somewhat, but it'll never be like it was. Well, that's true of a lot of places, though.
Yeah, because it's all in farmland now. It's all fields.
Yeah, they started draining it. But it was all swamps and wetlands and just ducks by the galore. I mean, in the millions at some of those places.
Yeah. Well, real quick, Dr. Wayne, anyone on the live stream, if you have any questions for Dr. Wayne, I can see all the comments you leave on YouTube and Facebook. So if you have any questions for Dr. Wayne, we'll get to them here in a little bit, and I'll kind of sprinkle them in if you have any. So, yeah, so could you, I was listening to your guest appearance on Ramsey Russell's podcast. He's such a neat guy. Could you tell that story about when you were in a museum during a blizzard?
Yeah, I can tell you. You know, I said writing the first book, Golden Age of Waterfowling, I went everywhere. You know, like I said, and one of the places I went was West Virginia, right across from Washington, D.C., in the eastern part of West Virginia. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has a training center up there, and they got a big museum. And I called the guy who ran the museum, Madison, Miss Madison. I can't think of his first name right now, but he said, "Yeah, I can talk to me." He said, "Yeah, you can come up here and go through our records. We've got a ton of records and photographs and things like that." And so that was for my research. I took off. I think it was in January. And that was probably, I don't know, 1998 or something. But anyway, I got up there. I got within 60 miles of West Virginia, the training center, Virginia, or in West Virginia. It's in January, and I stopped to have lunch at McDonald's in a small town that's about 60 or 80 miles below the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Museum and Training Center. And boy, it just starts snowing. So, I mean, hard. So I get out, and I said at 8, I'm going to start out, and I said, start heading up there. And by the time I get up there, there's about 3 inches. And he called me right before I got there and said, "Look, man, now it's about, I don't know, 1 o'clock. He says, we're closing for the afternoon because it's on the snow." He says, "But I've arranged with the security guard at the gate to let you in and then show you to the museum and then let you into the museum and you just go through the records." I said, "Fine." And he says, "Then depending on the situation, we may not be there tomorrow morning." And I've arranged the same thing with the security guard. So anyway, I get up there and security guard lets me in, and it's about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground by then. And I go through the museum, and he just collected a lot of material, not only of the Mid-South, but all across the country, photographs and just a lot of text stuff. And then the next day, he had the security guard take me to a warehouse to go see the material they had there, same situation, just a lot of material. So that's sort of how that happened, and that really helped me write other books other than just the Mid-South. So that's what happened there, Riley.
Neat. Well, we had a question from Dr. John, and he told me ask Dr. Wayne about Claypool Acres.
Can I just say, Dr. John, I know who Dr. John is, and I consider him a good friend of mine. But, you know, when I said a minute ago, I didn't get past my history books past 1950, but some of them I didn't. Wallace Claypool was one of them, and that got 1955 and 56. Wallace Claypool was from Memphis. He was a Buick distributor here in Memphis, and he was a golfer and then got into duck hunting. He hunted at different famous clubs over in Arkansas before he established his own place at Winger, Arkansas, which would be east of Stuttgart, about 60 miles, and about 70 miles from Memphis. But in Winger, he bought a place over there in 1941 and built a reservoir and backed up about 1,200 acres. 800 of it was a reservoir, the rest was wooded, flooded timber. And by the by the second year, there was something like 250,000 ducks on his 800-acre reservoir. And they just kept coming to the point where there got to be about 500,000 at times. This is not of course, this is a guesstimate when you look out there, but that's just a guesstimate by the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. So, you know, it's fairly reliable. And then if you see the pictures, photographs that were taken of Wallace Claypool area, you would think wiener became so highly popular, people coming from everywhere to hunt there, that they became the new duck capital of the world in 1955 or so. So Wallace Claypool, and you talked about changes. I've duck hunted over there a couple of times, I guess in probably around 2000, and it's definitely changed. It's not near like it was at one time, much less ducks and stuff. You know, when you asked me about changes, I think mallards, we see less mallards in this area now too. I think some of them have gone to the Central Flyway, especially over in Oklahoma and southeastern Kansas, that area. But Claypool was just a famous place. People hadn't done know anything about the ducks. Just Google Wallace Claypool Wild Acres, and you'll come up with some of the duck scenes. It's just ungodly of it.
Yeah. I'll have to look into that. I definitely will. Yes, thank you, Dr. John, for the question. And if any more questions come in, we'll ask Dr. Wayne. So, Dr. Wayne, what was I going to ask you? When did you decide to start your podcast?
About 2 years ago. I got it. Ramsey Russell called me up. I didn't know him. He called me up out of the blue. I didn't know him, and wanted to do a podcast with me. And he came to Memphis. He lives down in Mississippi. Came up to Memphis, and we did an interview. And I think we did another one after that. And during the second one, well, the first one I told him I wanted to interview him some too if we did the second one. So the second one we sort of interviewed each other. But after that, I said, "How hard is it to get in podcasting?" He said, "Well, not too hard at all. If you're going to do it." Because I told him I didn't want to do an interview ideal. I was going to do just storytelling of old time duck hunting. And he said, "Well, you don't need much at all." So I got to looking at it. I think I got in it, all the equipment for $200. So that's the way that got started. And I started out doing one every 2 weeks, and you think it being retired and old as I am, you just wouldn't be so busy. But I just now start doing them quite every 2 weeks. I've done, I think, 62 episodes. I've been working on the 63 episode. I'll have it out sometime this week. The podcast is called the duck hunting, the history of duck hunting podcast.
Yeah, I listen to it all the time. My personal favorite episode so far has been the episode about Grover Cleveland. That's probably one of my favorites because he's my favorite president of all time. And I didn't even know he was a duck hunter. So when you did that episode, I was so excited. Are there any, do you have a copy of the Serene Duck Hunter about Grover Cleveland?
No, I do not.
Oh, I bet that book is worth a lot right now.
There was only really two waterfowling presidents, and that was Cleveland and Harrison. And, that was in the, don't hold me to the term, but in the 1880s or so. But Cleveland of the two was probably the most ardent duck hunter, and he just traveled down the Potomac River and then got to Chesapeake Bay, and then went south into South Carolina, North Carolina, and even to Florida to duck hunt. He was an avid duck hunter and a great president at that too.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Harrison's museum is not very far from me, but I don't really even care to go see it. Because I'm not a Harrison fan. If you get into history, go ahead.
Yeah, me either.
He was a horrible
Except
president.
that he's a duck hunter.
I'm sorry?
Except that he's a duck hunter.
That's it. Yeah, that's the only redeeming quality that man had at all. Everything else, I just don't care for the history of Harrison. So anyway, besides politics.
Cleveland, he just hunted in all the famous clubs on the Chesapeake Bay and down in North Carolina. Just the most famous clubs. Unbelievable.
Yeah, didn't he get in trouble? Weren't the newspapers writing about him because he was duck hunting?
Yeah, so
too
much.
much?
Yeah. They just like today, the papers get all on you in the broadcast media, but the newspapers back then were all over him for taking time going duck hunting. He would finish up his business on a Friday evening and head down the Potomac River on a steamboat, because residents had their own steamboat. But he would hunt down the famous places on the Potomac River, which at that time had a heck of a lot of canvasback stuff. And then he'd go to Chesapeake Bay, obviously, a lot of canvasback and redheads there. But all the famous places there. He just, man, I just wish I need to be president of Cleveland. That's all I need to be, so I can have hunted in all those places.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? We got another question, and Dr. John is just serving up the questions. He said, ask Dr. Wayne about his own pool cue duck calls.
Well, I'm not much of a duck call maker, but I have started making a few out of their ends of their. I make them out of pool sticks and do a echo insert. To me, people ask me all the time, what kind of insert do you recommend? I tend to, first of all, Haydale. I grew up after the Yenses. I got into the Haydale calls, and I loved them. And then I got into the echo calling stuff and like those. But anyway, so I use pool sticks and make the barrels out of them, and then I do echo insert in those. I haven't done many. I've just made a few. I made Dr. John, who's calling in, I made him one, and then I bought another pool stick, and I've made 3, but I'm working on them now. I don't have them finished yet. But anyway, I'm not much of a duck call maker.
Yeah, I will. If Dr. John, you're probably listening, send me pictures. I want to see what Dr. Wayne's been making. So, if he says that they're fantastic, they're good. Then I want to see pictures of these. But yeah, it's I've as far as as I am a podcaster and I'm a call maker and duck hunter, and I can't listen to my podcast, so I'm always constantly looking for a podcast to listen to. And man, your Dr. Wayne, I can't thank you enough for just some of the content that you've brought forth on your podcast. I mean, it is just excellent.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, especially what was the name of the gentleman that would literally shoot ducks with a slingshot? Was it
Slingshot Charlie?
That's right.
Light.
Oh yeah, and you realize when listening to your podcast, and man, there's always been, it seems like there's always been a rift between the Illinois, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Louisiana as far as duck calls go.
Well, duck. I've been working on it for the last month. I guess I've been working on the evolution of a duck call, and of course it goes way back. With whistles, the bones, 40,000 years ago, and how it evolved from little bone whistles all the way to Allen and Grubbs and Oat and all of those guys. But I'm not finished with it. It's all, the question always comes up, who was it, Grubbs or Allen? And the story gets really sort of complicated and not clear cut. So I need to work on it a little bit more, or I'll probably want to get into it too deep. And if I did get into it too deep, it'd take a little while to really get across on a podcast. I and you couldn't do it in just a few minutes if you really want to know the evolution of the duck call. Both of those Allen and Grubb was, they like to boast a lot, you know. And I don't believe either one of them. Allen said 1863, he got his going, and Grubb's in 1868. I don't believe either one of those dates. Now, they may have started tinkering with them, but they didn't perfect them. And, you know, Allen was a metal reed duck call, modern duck call, and Grubbs was a wooden barrel duck call. But there's another guy involved in this called Sam Horner, up around the Nashwine and Swan Lake on the Illinois River in the state of Illinois, obviously. So it gets a little complicated. I don't know if anybody can really say who invented the first modern duck call, but if we consider the modern duck call being a wooden barrel with a curved tone board and straight tone board. I'm going to get tongue time. And a curved reed, a wooden barrel would go to Grubbs. Of course, you know, Allen was a metal reed or a metal batter guy. So it's just really complicated. Would take time for me to go through all of them. And even, you know, the tongue tincture. There's, you know, Howard Harlan has written, he's a great duck hunter, a good friend of mine, duck hunting with him many times. And he's written 2 books on duck call. And he says that the tongue picture, which was really our first duck call, was pictured in Courier. A guy named Courier who did stuff. He printed a picture of a boat, a guy with a muzzle loader in a boat, and he's ramming his muzzle loader, and he's got an object in his breast pocket. And everybody's interpreted that as being a tongue pincher call. That was in 1854. And the tongue pincher didn't come into 1870 or so with Fisher up in Detroit. But anyway, that is not, I can dispel that deal. That is not a tongue pincher in the breast pocket of that 1854 Courier print. That is a shot pouch or powder flask in his pocket. All you got to do is blow it up and you can see it. So anyway, I go into the tongue picture. Fisher was not the one that invented the tongue picture, which was really our first duck call. It's not a modern duck call because it's totally different from our single tone board. I've been too involved with this probably, but anyway, it takes some time to really get into the evolution.
Yeah, well, can I ask you why is it? And this is so funny because I make a call very similar to F.A. Allen, and my friends that make Glotto style, they will argue till they're blue in the face that Victor Glotto made the first metal reed duck call. And it's like
no, he did not make a metal. Barrel, you talking about metal barrel?
A metal reed.
Oh, metal reed. I'm not going to say right now because, like I said, I'm still looking into this.
Uh-huh.
I would say probably, if I had to say right now, I would say Fred Allen probably was the first. But see, that gets involved too because Fred Kimball, I don't know if people know Fred Kimball, but he was famous. He was the first to do choke boring in guns.
Mm.
And he came up to Monmouth, Illinois, which sits on the Illinois River where Fred Allen was from. He came up there in 71 to visit a gunsmith to help him improve his choke boring, get it going. And there's a lot of information that Kimball passed a lot of information on to Allen, and that's how Allen got started. So that would have been 1871, 72 when Kimball was in that area before going home. So, like I said, I do not believe 63 was when Fred Allen started. Now, he may have started, but he didn't improve it to the point where he started marketing it. That was much later. So
Yeah.
it's real complicated.
Oh yeah. I mean, it just asks some of these collectors they get a duck call that's a no-name duck call, and then they start searching news articles to try to find the maker of that call. It's oh man, when you get into calls and collecting and the history of duck calls, it's just an endless rabbit hole.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that Grubbs got his idea. Well, he actually got the idea from a guy named Sam Horner, which lived in, like I said, about 5 or 6 miles from Henry, Illinois, which is on the Illinois River, and he was at the famous Cincinnati Swine and the Swan Lake area, which is on the Illinois River, 2 famous duck hunting areas. But Sam Horner was, I think that he was really the first one that did the wood barrel duck call, and that Grubbs was guiding for a hotel up in that on the Illinois River in that exact same area where Horner lived. And I think Horner knew Grubbs knew what Horner was doing, and then Grubbs really got the idea to flutter it along by listening to an organ, which has the same setup as our modern duck call with the straight tone board and the curved metal reed. So I think that's when he really took it off and improved it. To be truthful, I think he improved Horner's. Horner was making wood duck calls too, and had the curved metal reed and the straight tongue board. I don't know. Am I making sense with all this?
Oh yeah. I mean, is there enough material to where you would write another book, or do you have no interest in writing a book about the evolution of a duck call?
Well, I guess about a month ago, I got to thinking all these stories I have written, podcasts I've done after my 3-volume image book, that I might have enough to put another book together and publish it. I tell you, it's got tough publishing now because all these bookstores have gone out of business, which is where I did a lot of my stuff because of Kindle and all of that stuff. So I may and I may not. I don't know. I'm going to do. I think my next podcast is on. What is my next podcast? It's on I think duck calls and its evolution. Have I done that? I can't remember right offhand. In the decoys in America, we like to think that the decoys got started here, the modern decoy, but actually it got started in Venice. I'm not going to get into that, but it really started in Venice, Italy, way before it got to the United States. They started making decoys up in the northeastern part of the country. I think I can't think of the guy who probably was the first around 1790 or 1800. I can't think of his name right now, but he was probably the first. But anyway, I'm getting off track here.
Well, that is it's. Would you say that duck hunting really got started here in the U.S. though, as far as a hunting sport?
Say again, what's the question?
Would you say that duck hunting is kind of the American hunting sport?
Well, I do. Quail hunting has just gone out of style because there's no quail left. And waterfowling, I can't think of another hunting sport that rivals it, to be truthful with you. so much money put in it, so many sportsmen do it, so many conservation organizations, all the wetlands they have preserved, DU, Delta waterfowl and stuff. Just, yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. You know, it's such a wonderful sport because you're out there with nature, and as you get older, you don't get quite as angry with stuff. You tend to enjoy the nature part of it more so. But just, you know, being out in nature and doing what you love, just a real passion with a lot of people. We just have got to keep young kids involved, get them involved as much as we can in hunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dr. Wayne, was there anything you wanted to talk about before we close out here in a minute?
No, I tell you, it's just been a pleasure talking to you, Riley. I appreciate what you're doing on your end. And just have people, hopefully people will visit my web or podcast, the Historic Duck Hunting Stories podcast. It's on Apple and a bunch of other places. So all you have to do is Google, I said, Historic Duck Hunting Stories podcast, and you'll see all my podcasts.
Yes, it's excellent. I just, it's one of my favorites. I just absolutely love what you're doing with that podcast. At the end of every one of my podcasts, I ask 3 questions. Are you ready for those last 3 questions?
Go.
All right. If you could go back in time and do a hunt all over again, what would it be?
You know, I guess all my life, duck hunting life, I've wanted to hunt sandhill cranes. In this part of the country where I am, we don't see sandhill cranes. However, about 1986, when I was down in Mississippi, there was a flock that started setting up. I wasn't in the club at that time. I got down to the club. Actually, it's probably 2002. I'm down in Mississippi, but not in that club. And I've got a blind out in flooded field, and there was about 300 sandhill cranes that would have stayed there all winter, going back and forth. But anyway, I got the opportunity to go sandhill crane hunting about 2 years ago out in western Texas. And it was a gathered hunt for 3 days, and it was just outstanding. I'm mesmerized by them because they're so archaic and prehistoric looking, and just, you know, they're called filet in the sky. And boy, when we got them home, they certainly were better than any filet I've ever had. If they're fixed right, you can't get over 135 when you cook them, otherwise they won't be any good. So that was just something I've always wanted to do, and it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, I've heard Indiana is talking about doing a sandhill crane season, so we'll see what happens in the next couple years here. So,
yeah, they come back.
Oh yeah. So, the second question: if you could hunt in a blind with 3 other people, writers, living or deceased, writers, presidents, people of history, family, friends, who would you hunt in that blind with?
Well, President Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then Wallace Claypool, Wild Acres guy. And then the third one would be probably Kanista Hodges, the guy who I started hunting with over in Mississippi. He, like I said, he was from Arkansas, former U.S. Senator. Just an excellent duck hunter, excellent man, gentleman, family man, husband, everything, and just had a great passion for duck hunting. Probably those 3 people, or 3 things.
Oh yeah. Okay, so the last question, Dr. Wayne, is, and this is because the podcast is all about duck calls. If you could stand over the shoulder of any duck call maker of all time and watch them make a duck call, who would it be?
it would be. I'm trying to sit there racking my brain. Probably Alvin Taylor over in Arkansas. He makes a acrylic type call, which I've always loved. I used it for a number of years. I didn't mention him, but I used it for a number of years. I think he's probably dead now, but
He is.
he was just an excellent call maker. I went over and when I was collecting duck calls, I got into collecting duck calls and I started just visiting every call maker over in Arkansas I could find. Like going over their place. Met Alvin and he was just such a gentleman. Invited me to his house and everything, and ended up, like I said, buying one of his calls and using it for a number of years.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. He was such a legend in the call making industry. Yeah. Well, Dr. Wayne, thank you so much for calling into the podcast. It's been an honor. Thank you so much. If you could stay on the line, and I'm going to close the podcast out real quick, and then I'll after it's over, I'll talk to you on the phone for just a little bit longer.
All right. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate it. And good luck, and God bless you.
God bless you. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. If you get a chance, look up Dr. Wayne's podcast. Look that up. It is excellent. You will learn so much about waterfowl history. He has spent so much time researching and trying to get all this history so it's not lost. This history could be lost if it wasn't for people like Dr. Wayne spending the time getting into the museums and researching all this stuff. So we should definitely check his podcast out and enjoy that information that he's bringing forward. So everyone, until next time, this is Riley Hendrickson with Rilo's Quack Chat. This is Rilo's Quack Chat. As a coal maker, I enjoy